Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're going to revisit Angular routing. We'll learn about single page application and we'll create a navigation for our application. So let's get started. At the beginning, let's go to the source code folder for our application, and let's open command prompt from there. Now we already have created few components. Let's create one more to get started. So let's create the component called recent albums. And this command has created the recent album component. Now if we go to our source code, and we will see that there is this recent album component folder, and it has all the necessary file for this component, including the HTML template or HTML view, as well as the component class. Now, how do we go to see the view for this component? For that, we need to go to app routing module, and we'll have to create a route. And we have previously seen that a route usually looks like a path and a component name. So let's call this path recent albums, and let's rename the component to be recent albums. And it will complain that the recent albums component is not imported yet, but we can click on the quick fix to import the recent albums component. And once we have done that, we can save this code, and now we can go to command prompt and we can type ngserve -- open. That is going to compile the application and run the application and open it in browser. So we have our application here. Now we can type in the address bar recent albums, and this will take to the recent album component. What if we want to create subpath? We can do that. So for example, instead of calling this recent albums, if we want to call this albums / recent, that will also work, and we can call this one album / me. And now we can go and we can type here albums / recent, and it will take us to the recent album component, versus if we type albums / me, it will take to my albums component. Now here the subpath part is fixed and we are hard coding it, but there might be situation where we would like to have this subpath to be dynamic. So for example, the profile component, maybe we want to pass the profile ID here. So what we can do is we can put a / here, and then we can say that the profile ID will be passed here. And then the syntax for that is the variable name and a colon before that. So profile /variable name. So now we can't type /profile to go to profile anymore. What we have to do is we have to give a profile ID, and for now I'm just giving a fake profile ID, say 5, and it will go to the profile page. Now within that page we can catch this value, we can take this value, and then we can display different thing accordingly, but this is a way to pass values there. Similarly, so creating album, and then when we are looking at a particular album, for that we can pass the album ID. Similar approach, when we are uploading picture, we need to upload a picture to a particular album, so we can call this upload /album ID. And then when we are looking at a photo, we need a photo ID to see the which particular photo we are looking at. So we can say /photo ID. So that's how we can pass dynamic values to each of these component. Now let's see how we can link this component from a navigation and what is a single page application. So let's first look at the navigation part. So we can take help from Bootstrap for that. So let's go to Bootstrap nav, and Bootstrap will give us option for creating nav bar, and we can look at this navigation, and it has drop down as well, and it has a couple of buttons and also an application name. So we can actually try to use that. So let's copy this example and in our code. So since the navigation will be valid across all the component, we need to find a common place where we can put it. And as you can see in our application, that currently this is the app component HTML. That's the common part which is being rendered in all the pages, right? So we can go to that same place, which is app component.html. And here we have the router outlet where the component gets rendered. But before that we have this text, but we can now replace it with this navigation, the code that we copied from the Bootstrap page. Initially, let's just save it and let's go and see it being used. So you can see here the navigation is appearing. Now we can start customizing it. So instead of calling this nav bar, we can call this my photo application, and if we want, we can remove this href. We don't want it to go to any particular place. And then the next thing we can do is, it also has a form for search. We can remove that. We don't need a search form. And now we can take a look at it again. So my photo application is appearing there, and it has a home link, some other links. And this navigation, as I have mentioned before, that Bootstrap automatically create responsive design. So this navigation is also responsive. What I mean by that is, if we open this navigation is in a mobile, it will automatically convert it to this hamburger menu. And then if you click on this hamburger menu, that navigation, responsive navigation, will come down, and you can also collapse it the way you usually see it in different mobile applications. Now let's go ahead and customize that more. So say we keep this home, and then we'll create a link for profile, and we'll create a link for my albums. So we can go here and we can see that there is this home button, and then there are some other navigation item there, but the most simple one is this link. So we can just keep it and we can remove the other one, and then we can duplicate that link example. So we just have one link item there, and let's see how it looks. So just one navigation item. So now let's call this one home, and then let's create more item for profile, and then another one for albums. Now we have these different navigation items. We can go to browser and we can see that we have home, profile, and albums, but clicking on them will just refresh the page because we have not specified what clicking on them should do. So what we can do is, usually in Ahref here the link is provided, but in our case, since we are using Angular, what we want to do is we want Angular to control that what should happen when someone click on this. We want Angular to take them to a particular route. So we'll remove this href attribute, and instead we'll put this new attribute called router link, and then the value for the router link will be, we need to specify the path that we want them to visit. So for home, let's say when someone clicks on it, we want them to go to albums/recent. So it will take them to the recent albums component. Similarly, let's copy this example and let's create this for profile, and we can take a look at different path available. So profile will go to profile/profile ID. So that's the option to go to profile, but say let's by default it will go to profile/me, so that by default we are passing my profile ID. So because I want when I am a logged in user, I want it to go to my profile. And then the next example for albums, this one we want to go to my albums. So again we can do albums/me. So these are the paths that are coming from the app routing module: albums/me, profile/profile ID, and album/recent, and we linked them using router link here. Now let's see them in action. So if we go here now, if we click on home, we'll say recent albums. So it's rendering that recent album component here. And if we click on profile, the profile part is coming. And then if we click on albums, that albums part is coming. Now, you can notice one interesting thing is that when I am clicking on any of these link, the whole page is not refreshing. You can tell by seeing that this part of the page is staying as it is, and then only the router outlet part where the component is getting rendered, only that part is getting changed, and at the same time the URL is getting updated, but the actual page is not actually refreshing. So this is what a single page application is, where the whole application behaves like one single page, and when you click on different part, corresponding changes happens in the page, but the page actually does not get refreshed. So it gives user an experience of similar to a interactive desktop application or like a mobile application. So this is what a single page application is. So we essentially created a single page application here, and we took the benefit of this router link to do that. Now let's go ahead and update few other components to actually take the benefit of that router link approach. So for that, let's start with this component and let's update them. So when we click on home, it says recent album works. So instead of that, let's go to the recent albums component, and we can update the HTML here, and we can say that most recent albums will be listed here. So we updated that. Now we can go to my albums and we can update the HTML, and we can say that all my albums will be listed here. Save. And then for the profile page, we can go and we can say here that it's actually already have a title, so it does look like a profile page, so we don't need to update that. Now let's see. So home, most recent albums will be listed here. Profile, it's like a profile page. We'll update the profile page later, and clicking on albums, all my albums will be listed here. Now when someone is in the album page, initially he will not have any albums, right? So we want to give them an option to create albums. So let's use another button example for that. So we want to actually create a button here somewhere on the right part of it to create albums. So let's look at another Bootstrap example called float. So float basically gives us classes so that we can render something on the left side of the page or the right side of the page. So here we have these three example. We want to copy this right example, float right example. So I will go ahead and in the my albums component, I am going to use that, and then instead of this text, I want to put a button here. So let's look for an example of a button. So again, let's go to Bootstrap page and let's look for different kind of buttons. So we have all these kind of different kind of buttons, and we can choose from there. So maybe we can choose this success button, and we can copy that, and we can paste that button example here. But instead of success, let's call this create album, and let's indent the HTML. Now let's see if that button got created. So now we have a right aligned button here, but the button is going too much on the right side. Maybe we want to put a little bit of a space before that, after that. So the way we can do is we can add some styling here to say that we want to do some padding on the right side of 30 pixel, and you can try different value there to work out the right value. So now the button got aligned a little bit. It's on the right side, but it put a space there, and maybe we want to put a little bit of space above it as well. So we can say padding top 20 px, and again you can try different values to work it out. So now we have an button here to create album, and we can see that when the application is rendered in a smaller page, like in a mobile application, it will be actually like come accordingly. It will show up in the right place. Now we want to put a router link for this button as well. So the way this button is showing up, it's actually depending on this class. So whether it's a button or it's an anchor, it should not matter. Instead of button, we can even call it an anchor, and it will still appear the same way. Now we can go ahead and we can actually add a router link there. So we'll add router link, and the value for router link will be we need to go to the create album component. So now we can take a look at the app routing module to see what is the path for creating an album. Is just called create. So we can just use that. So slash create album, and now we can open the create album component and update the description for that. So create album component, and we can just say here that this page will allow user to create a new album. Now let's see it in example. So we have this albums page which says all my albums will be listed here, but it also gives a create album button. And then if we click on this create album button, it goes to this page, where this page will allow user to create a new album. Now to go back to the previous page, the user can just click on this, and so here we have the list of albums, but from those lists we want the user to be able to go to a particular album. So we can also do that. So let's go back to my albums component, and here we can actually just create a dummy link to a particular specific album. So that will be, if we look at the app routing module, we can see that for a particular album details, the link is album/album ID. So we can create a link accordingly. So here it will be album, and then we need to pass a value for the album ID. So this will change dynamically later. For now we are just putting a random number there for it to work, and then the class for this will also decide later. So now we're just creating a hyperlink for now, and then this will be go to specific album. Now we can open this and you can see that all my albums will be listed here, as well as there will be link to go to a specific album. And if I click on that, that will go to the album details page. So now we can open the album details component, and we can say here that details of specific album will be shown here. So details of specific album will be shown here. So now the user in a particular album page. So from here, the user should be able to add more photos to this album. So we can do that. We can copy the previous example of creating album. But instead of creating album, since we are inside a particular album, this is upload photos to this album. So upload photo, and for that we can look at upload photo component, and that is app routing module. So upload photos is upload/album ID. So we can do that inside album details component. So upload photos will be /upload and then a particular album ID. So again, we are putting an arbitrary value there. We will later change that. So now we can see that here we're in a particular album page. Details of that specific album will be shown here, but we can also click on the upload photo to go to the upload photo component. So in the upload photo component, so upload picture, we can change the HTML here to be we will allow user to upload photo from here. So we will allow user to upload photo from here. Now to come to this page, user actually went to albums and then go to a specific album, and then he clicked on upload photo. So now we should also have an option to go back to that particular album, which is this page, right? So we want to create that link as well. So this link is very same as from here, go to a specific album. So we can copy that example. Or we can copy this example as well. Upload picture. And then we can say that this link will say go back to album, and here this will be /album. So now we can go to this albums page, and from here we can create an album. Once the user create albums, they can go to that specific album, and if there are already photos there, they can look at those photos here. So details of a specific album will be shown here, but they can also click on upload photo, and then from here we will allow user to upload photo, and at the same time they can, once the upload is done, they can go back to the album. So that's most of the component, and as we have explained that we have used router link to create this navigation, and as a result when the user is clicking on any of those link, no new page is getting refreshed. Instead, only the specific part of the page is getting like updated. So this is give us a native application kind of experience, and this is called single page application. Thank you.